It's Mr. Jerry Chukwueke that joins us next to give us his perspective on the strategies or the plan, as you may have seen or read about it, with respect to fighting corruption. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Good morning, everybody.
Can we make a headway with the way, say, the committee that the president has put in place now?
Oh, I believe so. And I think we have a great opportunity today. First, I think that the ingredient number one is the business of who is looking after the store, who is in charge. I think we have somebody in charge. I think Nigerians can attest to that. And what's important is that we have an opportunity to fight corruption from top down. That's the difference now. Because if you put in place an exemplary leadership approach to it, and that's what I believe President Buhari is doing, you set the pace and you set the tone. I can tell you, listening out there and watching what's going on closely, that Nigerians are getting the message. That they're feeling it, they're smelling it, and I think we're going to touch it shortly. Because he means business. I think President Buhari means business. And it's going to spread right across the sectors.
But that's why some have raised issues. They say, listen, yes, we've seen your plan, but if you mean business, if you truly mean business, look inwards.
Well, but I think he's doing that. And quite frankly, this is not a political statement. I'm focusing on what's good for Nigeria. And being in Washington a few weeks ago, when the president was visiting Washington, you could get clearly the body language. The international community expects that. In fact, the respect that was accorded him, in my view, was largely based on the expectation that he would deliver on corruption, anti-corruption, and fight Boko Haram. So the expectations across the globe is heavy. But you know, there comes a time in a man's life when they make the decision, I think, to work for the country. And I believe that's the opportunity we have now with President Buhari. All the indications are that he will take his time. Yes, angels don't play football. We know that. But he will make a special effort
about it that way. Well, that's what people are asking.
But I think he's making a special effort to reduce the chances of bringing in people who don't share his vision on corruption and anti-corruption. I think that's clear. And so when people say it's a bit slow, I'm not so sure what that means now.
What about the comments from the PDP, for instance, where they say, look, why don't you probe those who actually supported you in all of this? Because what they see on that list, they think it's just us.
Well, you're always going to have that chicken and egg argument. And I'm not so sure that's what's important to Nigerians now. I think clearly what this president is doing is that he has what appears to me to be a plan to go after individuals, go after corporates.
Tell us what you understand from that plan, I mean, or about this plan.
Well, I think he's looking to have Nigeria's funds refunded to every extent possible.
Have you seen the plan?
Well, I have. Look, I can tell you this. In fact, you heard him say a few days ago that in a few weeks, he'll be out there persecuting people.
That's all we've heard, you know. People are curious, I mean.
But we take him seriously. I think we need to take President Buhari seriously on this. Because let me tell you, I think it's clear that we have a massive problem in our hands. And there won't be a perfect solution. And I think if people who, and by the way, the system knows who's got these monies. Because they're domiciled in accounts, there are enablers, so you have commercial banks, you have certain institutions, some businesses, some individuals. You can track, by the way, when you play with US dollars, you can track them anywhere.
Quite a number of people believe that the focus on tracking funds is way too much. I mean, what they're also hoping is that some work will be going on at the same time. They want to see hospitals fixed. They want to see their roads better. They'd like to see better power supply. These are all the things that people voted for, in addition to the fight against corruption. But it would seem that the fight against corruption is taking up a lot of the time of the president.
Well, yes, you might say that, and I can understand the argument that is taking center stage. But I think in all fairness as well, President Buhari met pretty empty treasury. And in a situation where price of crude is more than halved. And what seems to be happening is that he's looking for opportunities to boost the treasury. And in fact, see how, I believe if he could negotiate, find some understanding with people who have funds that they can account for, and there are proceeds of corruption, and they can do some deals to return a lot of these monies. I think some of this could be settled quite quietly. But let me tell you, the issue of corruption is very real. It is so real that it is choking the opportunity for most Nigerians to have their own opportunities, to have their lives and dreams met as well. So that's a serious issue. Remember, it was a major campaign flag issue for the APC, what General Buhari was talking about then.
Since you raised that issue of it being a major campaign issue, one of the things that was said, and I stand to be corrected, is that institutions would be strengthened. Institutions like the EFCC will be strengthened so that this can happen. The last guest here gave an analogy of driving a car where you have a bigger windscreen and a tiny rear view mirror. So in his words, or what he was trying to say was that let the institutions handle the corruption while issues of governance, fixing roads and getting things moving can still move on. Do you see that? How do you see that?
I think we're going to see both. And the stage is being set for both.
But is the EFCC strengthened?
But you can see from the activities of the EFCC that they're more up and doing today.
Is it any different from what was?
Oh, yeah. And the ICPC is also more up and doing than we used to have them. I think what's happening here first is the opportunity we have, provided by this president, in leadership and leading by example. And that message is so strong that people have to think twice now about ways and means of conducting business. And I'm talking about across the board. And we needed that. And so that...
Do you see the other politicians buying into the example of the president?
Well, I believe so. And you know why I say it? I think for the, and I say with all due respect as well to former President Jonathan, what we're seeing today is that the presidency and this president is respected. Nigerians find that important. What we had in the past was perhaps a presidency that wasn't respected as much. And all of a sudden, everybody was doing what they please and how they please.
Yeah, but
and so this is important. So people now take a look and they see where he's going. And quite frankly, they take a couple of deep breaths and they think twice.
Shouldn't we also be looking at beyond him being respected after he's left the place? Would we say afterwards that yes, indeed, we were able to get an institution or get it across board, everybody understands, or at least largely on the same page, on what the fight against corruption is, to the extent that even if he's off the place tomorrow, it just goes on?
I agree with you, Chamberlain. I think you're talking about processes now. And, but let's look what's happening so far. You've seen the NNPC accounts are streamlined. You've seen funds for ministries and parastatals and departments of government and agencies streamlined through the CBN. There are no multiple accounts going on. You can track these funds. You can deploy them. It probably will hurt some subsectors of the economy who have enjoyed all that benefit over the years. But so those systems are being enforced now. And I think my read of President Buhari is he's not going to look back. And quite frankly, talking about the issue of ministers that haven't come on board yet, or haven't put in place yet, I don't think that anybody can have a lock-in relationship with this president. He's taking his time to appoint, but when you get in there and you don't share that vision, my read of this president is that he'll make a move to ensure that he keeps that agenda going. I think that's probably how he wants to leave us, a great legacy of this anti-corruption, and at the same time focusing on how the other aspects of governance can take place. And Chamberlain, if I may just 1 second, I'm sure you've noted over the weeks that this president has focused on meeting with PAMSECs, all of the top managers of parastatals and ministries getting proper briefing, This goes back to part of the issue that they didn't have enough briefing before they came in. So he can actually size up the situation more effectively and move forward. And I think he's a busy man.
Do you think he's got faith in the EFCC and the ICPC with this committee that has been set up?
Well, I believe so. And I think these committees can work in tandem. I think they can, quite frankly, support each other.
But why do we need this committee if you have faith in the EFCC and the ICPC?
Well, I think we can. My belief is a more holistic approach, because when you look at this, the committee members are not enforcers of the law. They can talk about the issues, look at what happened, be able to present facts for those agencies to work on. That's important.
But these committee members have other responsibilities. Some of them are CEOs in other states, and wouldn't this be a distraction from their other work of government when there are institutions that can handle this?
Well, I think for now, what is important is, and my read, is that this president is making a great effort to make good on a commitment to Nigerians, that he will focus on corruption and do so in an exemplary manner and get the message across that business as usual will no longer be tolerated. And I think that's important, and we need to give him that support.